Hey everyone, welcome and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jorge Martinez. I'm the Texas Coalition's Director for the LIBRE Initiative. And in this policy forum that we're hosting, which is a continuing series that LIBRE hosts, we have a very special guest with us, and that is a senator that was first elected to the US Senate in 2012 and re-elected in 2018. And that's my senator, United States Senator Ted Cruz. And interviewing him today is our founder and president of the LIBRE Initiative, Daniel Garza. And lastly, if you who are watching feel encouraged to want to participate, get involved, please leave a comment below, reach out to us. We'd love to connect with you. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Daniel. Daniel?
Thank you, George. Appreciate it. Senator, it's an honor to have you with us today.
Daniel, great to be with you. George, thanks for having me too.
You bet. Senator, let me first say Hispanic Americans, millions of Hispanic Americans, and especially those of us at LIBRE, are proud of your achievements, proud of your love of the American experiment, how you champion American freedoms, those enshrined in our Constitution. And really, you're an example of America's story of resilience and faith and individualism, really. Thank you for what you do to preserve and strengthen America's future.
Well, Daniel, thank you. That is very kind, and let me respond by thanking you for the hard work you guys do with the LIBRE Initiative. You know, our community, the Hispanic community, we're a conservative community. The values we believe, the values we were raised with of faith, family, patriotism, hard work, the American dream, those are all conservative values. And you know, as we look back at this last election, one of the most encouraging things we saw was the rising numbers of Hispanic voters that were voting for President Trump, voting for Republicans. And I think it is because we believe in jobs, we believe in opportunity, we believe in the American dream. And I think that is a trend that I expect to only continue in the years going forward.
I look forward to it. I know that right now, we'll get into the policy now. There is a heated discussion, passionate discussions that are going on with respect to COVID relief negotiations in the US Senate. Many of our activists are concerned that another relief bill will only have a fraction of the proposed spending go into the things that will make the biggest difference. Additionally, Congress's battle over big dollar amounts continue to show that they're focused on the wrong things. Are we right to be concerned? And if so, what would be a better approach, Senator?
Yeah, I think you're certainly right to be concerned. And listen, the COVID pandemic has been an extraordinary challenge. It's been an extraordinary public health challenge. It's been an extraordinary economic challenge. And we saw this spring and summer, Congress come together in a bipartisan manner to provide trillions in relief, in emergency relief. We're at a different stage now. And I got to say, I'm worried. I'm worried where congressional Democrats are wanting to go. And I'm worried even where some Republicans are wanting to go, and that I don't think the answer is just shoveling trillions outside the door. We can't print enough money to get through this. What our focus should be is on helping the millions of small businesses across this country reopen their doors, helping the millions of Americans who want to work go back to work. Listen, we got to be safe. We got to protect the most vulnerable. This is a serious disease, and we have been taking extraordinary steps to combat it. But the answer is not just eternal shutdowns and mandating that small businesses shutter their doors. The answer is reducing taxes, reducing regulations, helping small businesses prosper. A couple of months ago, I introduced legislation called the Recovery Act, which is really the direction I think we should be going, which is cutting taxes, reducing job-killing regulations, helping the small businesses that are right teetering on the edge between surviving and going under, helping them grow and prosper and thrive. That's what's going to create millions of jobs. That's what's going to lift wages for Americans across the country.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate that so much. You're absolutely right. Productivity is what it's going to take to create those opportunities. Senator, like I had mentioned, we have long appreciated your stalwart advocacy on issues that matter to the Latino community. Healthcare is one of those issues. Can you tell us about some of the efforts that you continue to push for greater healthcare options to ensure that patients, not bureaucrats, or bureaucracies are more in control of their healthcare?
Well, look, healthcare is a very personal issue for all of us. It's personal to ourselves. It's personal to our families. It's about our own lives, our kids' lives, our parents' lives. And particularly in a pandemic, that has been driven home to a lot of people. I think when it comes to healthcare, what people want is access to affordable healthcare and more choices and more options. If you look at Obamacare has been absolutely disastrous. It has hurt millions of Texans, millions of Americans, and there are many reasons for that. But the most striking reason is that it has driven healthcare premiums through the roof. What I hear from Texans and from Americans across this country is I can't afford health insurance. It has gotten so expensive that for a great many families, you know, when Obamacare was being debated, Barack Obama promised the average family's premiums would drop $2,500 a year. In fact, what happened is the average family's premiums have risen over $5,000 a year. That means for a lot of families that are working class families, that are struggling, healthcare they can't afford. So what do we want instead? We want more choices, more options, more competition. That's how you drive prices down. So I've championed what's called the Consumer Freedom Amendment, which allows consumers to buy the healthcare you need and you want to drive prices down. I've also championed healthcare savings accounts so that you can save in a tax advantage account to meet your healthcare needs. And I also think portability is critical. If you look at our healthcare system right now, it in many ways is antiquated. It arose in the 1950s. It arose at a time when people tended to work at one job for 30, 40, 50 years. That's not the world we live in right now. We live in a dynamic, changing world. And if you lose your job, you don't lose your car insurance. You don't lose your house insurance. You don't lose your life insurance. There's no reason on earth you should lose your health insurance, and it's the worst one to lose. And so I think our objective should be making health insurance personal and portable and affordable. And that's a fight I have led for 8 years in the Senate, and I intend to continue leading.
No, thank you, Senator. You're right. Affordable Health Care Act, it's not affordable. In fact, you're right about the premium spiking, and the deductibles have doubled and tripled for so many folks. And a lot of folks are asking themselves the question is, well, when do the insurance pay? Anyways, Senator,
well, and a quick
I know that
point on that, Daniel, you know what's interesting about that? You know who's gotten rich off Obamacare? The insurance companies. In 2008, before Obamacare passed, the profits of the top 10 insurance companies in America were roughly $8 billion a year. By 2015, they had doubled to $15 billion a year. And that's a pattern we see often, which is special interest and lobbyists and big business do great with big government. And the people that get left out in the cold are the working men and women of our communities who are paying more as a result.
Yeah, I don't think Americans would mind if they doubled their profits, as long as we didn't double the cost on Americans. I know that many of those watching already knew this, but some may not. And I know you spoke a little bit about this. You are the son of a Cuban refugee who fled from communism in search of freedom and opportunity in this country, as so many have done, before your family. But as you well know, many young Americans, including young Latinos, are beginning to believe that we should embrace socialism in this country. As blood curdling as that is to even fathom that in America, why should all Americans be concerned about the growing size and influence of the government? How government is consolidating and centralizing more power, more money, and more control? Well,
because socialism doesn't work. Because socialism, everywhere it's been implemented across the world, it's produced misery and suffering and poverty and death. And I got to say, in the Hispanic community, we know this firsthand. You take a country like Venezuela. Do you know in Venezuela, in the 1950s, Venezuela had the 4th highest GDP per capita of any country on the face of the earth? The United States was number 1, then Switzerland, then New Zealand, Venezuela was number 4. Then what happened? Hugo Chavez, Nicolas Maduro came in, that they forced socialism on the people of Venezuela, and the result has been absolute devastation, has been misery, has been people literally eating from trash cans in the alleyways. Socialism does not work. And by the way, you mentioned my own family story. You look at Cuba. Cuba had a prosperous economy, one of the most prosperous in all of Latin America. Fidel Castro came in communism and produced absolute misery. And I actually think that's one of the reasons why you saw growing Hispanic numbers voting Republican this time around, is that when you see these wild-eyed socialists, when you see the Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warrens and AOCs driving the Democratic Party saying, abolish the police, saying, let's implement socialized medicine. Look, socialism is the government taking over the economy in every aspect of your lives. That doesn't work out well. The reason people come to America is because this is a land where you can achieve your dreams. This is a land, unlike most of the countries on the face of the earth, where you can start with nothing. You know, Daniel, you mentioned my dad's story. My father was born in Cuba. My grandfather lived on a plantation in Cuba, a sugar plantation in Cuba, worked on a sugar, wasn't one of the overseers, was one of the workers on the plantation. My dad fought in the Cuban Revolution, and he was thrown in prison. He was tortured as a teenager. And when my father came to Texas, it was 1957, and he didn't have anything. He had $100 that was sewn into his underwear. He couldn't speak English. He was 18. He had been admitted to the University of Texas. He came here to go to school. And his first job was washing dishes, making 50 cents an hour. And I grew up as a kid hearing stories about freedom fighters, about fighting for freedom. That's why you came to America. And those on the radical left pushing socialism, that is a system that destroys the opportunity that brought my family and that brought all of our families to America in the first place, is because here anybody can make it no matter where you're starting from.
Absolutely. I mean, we believe so strongly more in the redistribution of knowledge and equal opportunity than the redistribution of somebody else's earned wealth. And, you know, to that point, Senator, as you know, education is an important issue for the Latino community. Unfortunately, many families are struggling because, you know, and you had talked about this a little bit, the COVID-19 school closures. Yeah. But even once the schools would reopen, many families feel like they're not being well served by their local school, or feel like their children are not being fulfilled. What is the proper role of government in ensuring that we are able to provide every family with the ability to customize an educational plan that works best for their children?
We are seeing a manifest failure across the country when it comes to schools, when it comes to education of kids. Unfortunately, we're seeing too many radical Democratic politicians, governors, mayors, who are shutting down schools, who are ordering schools to close down. And by the way, the people getting left behind right now are Hispanic kids. They're African American kids. They're low-income kids that are struggling. If you happen to be blessed to be rich and have opportunities, you can bring in tutors. You can find all sorts of other options. But for low-income working-class families, these shutdowns are leaving a generation of kids behind, and it is wrong. It is immoral to just leave those kids. Look, back in March, when schools first shut down in Texas, you know, Heidi and I have 2 daughters. Our daughters are 4th grade and 7th grade. Both of them did distance learning from school, and Heidi worked from home. I worked from home. I did Zooms. I'd travel the state of Texas via virtual town halls. Now, even with both parents in the house, it was really hard for our girls to work through, you know, the assignments, the virtual schooling, and that was with both of us there. I can't imagine how difficult it would be for a single mom with 3, 4, 5 kids and without any resources to help. And we've got to have a passion education is foundational to everything else, and shutting down schools is wrong. We can protect our kids. We need to keep them safe, but destroying their education is not keeping anybody safe.
Senator, one of the things that I think helps to reverse the consolidation of power in DC and reverse it back to the individual is school choice, where the parent now is empowered and not a bureaucrat who gets to dictate based on a zip code where the child goes. What can the federal government do to promote educational freedom policies that protect school choice, charter schools, and these kind of things before I get to my last question here, because I know you're pressed for time?
So Daniel, I am deeply, deeply passionate about school choice. I think school choice is the civil rights issue of the next century.
Here.
And for 25 years, I've been active in the school choice movement, fighting. I believe every child in America deserves access to an excellent education, regardless of your race, regardless of your ethnicity, regardless of your wealth, regardless of your zip code. And in the Senate for 8 years, I have been the leading advocate, the leading defender of school choice. The legislative accomplishment I'm most proud of in the Senate is in 2017, I introduced an amendment as part of the tax cut that we passed that expanded College 529 savings plans, the tax advantage savings plans that you used to be able to save just for college expenses. Now, as a result of my amendment, you can save for K through 12 education. You can save for public school, private school, parochial school, religious school, up to $10,000 per child per year. That legislation passed the Senate 50-50 at 1 in the morning with the vice president casting the tie-breaking vote. And it's the most far-reaching federal school choice legislation that's ever passed into law, providing help to up to 50 million school kids in America. I can tell you right now, I have legislation that I am fighting hard for that in fact was included on the last COVID relief bill that the Senate voted on, and we got 52 out of 53 Republicans to support my legislation that would create $5 billion a year in federal tax credits for contributions to scholarship granting organizations in the state, scholarship granting organizations giving scholarships for K through 12 education, giving scholarships so that if your kids right now are stuck at home, are not able to go to school, are not getting a good education because the system is not providing what they need, your kids could get a scholarship, dollar for dollar tax credits. And it was a battle in the Republican conference. There were some Republicans who didn't want to go down this road. And as I said, I was able to unite 52 out of 53 Republicans. Sadly, every single Democrat in the Senate voted to filibuster school choice, voted to oppose making these scholarships available for kids. I have been fighting this fight for the last 8 years, and I'm going to continue fighting this fight and fighting it hard.
Well, thank you so much for being such a, like I said, a champion on the issue of educational freedom. Finally, again, because I know you're pressed for time, what can we expect from Washington under a Biden administration, barring any extraordinary turn of events? Are there issues where you believe Republicans and Democrats may be able to find common ground to tackle some of the country's most pressing issues?
So I hope so. And from my perspective, I'm willing to work with anyone, Democrat, Republican, Independent, Libertarian, anyone, if they're willing to work for more jobs, if they're willing to reduce taxes, reduce regulations, help small businesses, if they're willing to defend the Constitution and Bill of Rights. Now, I have to say this, if we do end up with a Joe Biden administration, I am very concerned that it is the extreme left that is driving the train in the Democratic Party, and that we're going to see a full push from the far left for socialism, a full push for massive tax increases, for the Green New Deal that would destroy millions of jobs. And I also think we're going to see the far left push to pack the US Supreme Court. Just a couple of months ago, I wrote a book called One Vote Away, How a Single Seat on the Supreme Court Can Change History. And the book describes, every chapter describes a different constitutional liberty. And it tells war stories. So my career before the Senate, I was a Supreme Court litigator. What I did was argue cases in front of the US Supreme Court. And each chapter tells war stories. It takes you inside the biggest landmark cases at the court. cases concerning free speech, religious liberty, the Second Amendment, and case after case after case is 5-4. Our rights, our fundamental liberties, they're hanging, they're just one vote away. I think that's going to be a huge battle the next 4 years if we have a Joe Biden administration.
Well, thank you, Senator Cruz. We so appreciate your time, and really we value your advocacy in fighting to defend our freedoms, our free market, and keeping individuals free in a free nation. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. God bless.